Ladies and gentlemen, Jimbert High Roller released this video. I never thought I would see this again. The thumbnail is Anthony Edwards and Michael Jordan. I can't lie, I actually have a lot to say on this topic, specifically this morning. Depending on how he goes about it, though. But let's go.
That can happen to a young basketball player in their career is get compared to Michael Jordan. One of the worst things that can happen to a young player in their career is get compared to Michael Jordan. For every player that gets compared to MJ and is successful in the NBA, there's 5 more who fall a mile short and make the comparison seem blasphemous in the first place. Anthony Edwards is the latest player added to this list of hopeful Jordan successors. Only this time, it feels real. I mean, the memes and the jokes were funny at first, but now this is just getting uncanny. The highlights, the trash talking, the swagger, the charisma. Being compared to the best player to ever touch a basketball is an impossible task for any player to live up to. And yet,
that's a lot. That's a lot. And we'll get into it the further this video goes around. But all I'm saying is, there's a motherfucker out there that got 5 rings, an MVP for the Los Angeles Lakers, and he still doesn't compare to Mike. You really gotta push. You really gotta push to compare to Mike, dog. But, hey,
we can't help but to make the comparison. So how similar is Anthony Edwards to a young Michael Jordan? Is this comparison even warranted, or is this gold standard still as unattainable and unrealistic as ever?
It'll always be unrealistic to me, because I think it's important to realize that Michael Jordan's career, whether you like it or not, bro, there was luck involved. I can't lie. There was luck involved. There's luck involved in anyone's career, but the amount of luck and also how great you gotta be, and also the league to be where it needs to be for you to get 6 rings and 6 Finals MVPs. That's not gonna happen again, gang. I can't lie. I can't lie. I think the league is just way too talented now for a guy to go 6-0 in the finals. Like, the standards is too high. It's too high.
In 1995, a young guard from California was making a name for himself in the basketball world. As a junior in college, the kid was considered by some to be the best college basketball player in the country. And with his 6'5" all-in-one shooting guard package, it was only a matter of time before the infamous comparison to Michael Jordan was made. Later on, we would learn that despite his incredible skill set and Hall of Fame pedigree, the Michael Jordan comp was never really warranted. You might be familiar with this
Ray
player.
Allen?
His name was Ray Allen. And looking back, outside of playing the same position, there wasn't much he and MJ had in common. But this wasn't the first, and surely not the last time a player received a Jordan comp. In 1986, Ron Harper might have been the first player to ever be called the next Michael Jordan. The closest Harper ever got to Jordan was playing with him. Harold Miner was compared heavily to Jordan coming out of USC in 1992. One season and a bad injury later, Miner would become a cautionary tale for anyone eager to dub a player as the next Michael Jordan. This did not stop people from dubbing players as the next Michael Jordan. In 1993, Penny Hardaway received the comp. The next year, it was Grant Hill. A couple years after that, it was Jerry Stack.
I think being the next of anyone, just being because I've seen it before, bro. Someone literally tried to be a carbon replica as much as possible as MJ, and it just didn't work out. I think the more interesting conversation is can Anthony Edwards be the next face of the NBA? I think that's the more interesting conversation than if he's the next Michael Jordan.
House. In 1997, Vince Carter was named the next Michael Jordan. And this time around, it actually felt like it might become a real thing. A 6'6" high-flying shooting guard out of North Carolina. That sounds awfully familiar. But despite putting together a Hall of Fame career, Vince Carter, just like every player that came before him, was in fact not the next Michael Jordan. Around the turn of the century, it was Kobe Bryant who...
I think it's also important to realize, chat, that being the next Michael Jordan is not just a play style thing, is not just, hell, even a peak thing. There's so much that goes into being the next Michael Jordan that just looking at how you play on the court is just not enough. When we talk about Michael Jordan, we're talking about a dude that transcends the sport. We're talking about a dude that globalized the game. That's what it means. when you say someone's the next Michael Jordan. And I think we have been way more cautious of that in years past, of like touting that on to people. So I do think there's progress that's been made there. But nah, being the next Michael Jordan isn't just being an MVP in the league. It isn't just winning a championship, best player on a championship team. A lot goes into being Michael Jordan.
Was next up as Jordan's successor. Jordan was out of the NBA by now, and the league was in desperate search of a new poster child. Kobe Bryant came just in the nick of time. Kobe said he modeled his game after MJ, a statement that seemed like a far-fetched attempt to draw comparisons to the greatest player of all time from a 19-year-old kid. But with every passing season, Kobe hadn't just become like Mike. He became a carbon copy of Mike. 20 years later, Kobe Bryant built a legacy of his own, but he still remains the closest thing we have ever seen to Jordan. Since then, there's been a few more ill-advised next Michael Jordans. LeBron has been compared to Michael to the extent that you can't say one of their names in a sentence without mentioning the other, Dwayne Wade.
But I think the LeBron-Michael Jordan comparison was never just, it was never a playstyle thing. It was more so, yo, this motherfucker's the GOAT. This guy got a chance to be the GOAT. That's where that comparisons came about.
Wade generated Jordan comps after his championship run in 2006, but that's about it. After 2 decades of attempting to find the next Michael Jordan, the basketball world settled into the fact that maybe the next Michael Jordan didn't exist. And even worse, giving a young kid the comparison was almost a curse that would mentally handicap them from becoming their own player. After LeBron in the mid-2000s, it became this sort of unwritten rule to compare any player to Michael Jordan. Not only because it usually didn't make any sense, but because the track record of Jordan's successors was looking pretty bleak. Oddly enough, most players who received the comp didn't actually play or act or look or carry themselves like Mike. They were just really good, sort of, kind of like Mike. Which brings us to today, and this guy, who is the first player in about 15 years to be tagged with the infamous next Michael Jordan label. I mean, come on. We all see it. The similarities are striking, but due to the history of this comparison, no one wanted to be the first to actually say it. But in the midst of the postseason run he is putting together right now, we're all thinking the same thing. Anthony Edwards reminds us of Michael Jordan. And this time, we don't need to be baited into this comparison or hastily rushed into it. Ant is shoving the comp into our faces every time he steps on the court. The high-flying acrobatics, the overwhelming scoring barrages and lightning-quick first step, the cutthroat trash talk, the irrevocable confidence, even the commercials, the energy, the charisma. Where others seem to always be leaving 1 or 2 boxes unchecked, Anthony Edwards pretty much checks them all. Some fans
I don't think he did. I mean, Penny Hardaway, in my opinion, was a dude that had off-court charisma. He had the little Penny campaign. He had a fire shoe. Hell, even Vince Carter. I want to say Vince Carter was a boring player, but I'm telling you, listen, this is the point I want to get off in this video. We're going to regret this in the future. I can't lie. And this comes, I want to show y'all this tweet that I found this morning that has a lot of fucking interactions. And I understand this one tweet, but I do think it is a marker of what is to come for Anthony Edwards, depending on how the next couple of years play out for him. So, someone said, Nikola Jokic has Jamal Murray, Michael Jordan has Scottie Pippen, LeBron had D Wade, Anthony Edwards has nobody. Okay? Anthony Edwards has no help offensively. Jamal Connoisseur, quote, retweets is saying, Anthony Edwards has the DPOY, 2 all-star teammates, the 6th man of the year. What more help does he need? 1.6 million views, 16K likes, 1.5K retweets, and I, quote, retweeted this tweet saying, it's the start. It's the start. I'm telling y'all, I've seen this rodeo before. And I'm going to get the elephant out the room because I know a lot of y'all are thinking that BSOLZ, he's not Tatum. He's... Okay. I think Listen, I understand a lot of y'all don't like Jason Tatum, but it wasn't too long ago. It's still the case now where Jason Tatum, not being compared to Michael Jordan, was being compared to Kobe Bryant. Jason Tatum is the next Kobe Bryant. He's even fed into it. The same way Jimmy just said Anthony Edwards is feeding into it. Jason Tatum was feeding into it. And now here we are in year 8 at age 26. And because of the fact that this guy that's supposed to be the next Kobe, the next greatest thing, doesn't have a ring by age 26, year 8, he's getting cooked. People are revising the last couple of years. Or not necessarily revising, but they're really looking at these last couple of years and saying, yo, this supposed to be the man. This supposed to be the dude next up. Where is this dominance that we're talking about? Where is this ring that we're talking about? And this is why I said, yo, this is the start. This is the start. This is the first year that Anthony Edwards has championship expectations. And someone did say that, hey, maybe this is the peak of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would like to be more optimistic about the Minnesota Timberwolves moving forward. But if Anthony Edwards doesn't get a ring by age 26, even though he's only 26, and a lot of legends in the past don't have a ring by 26, people are going to look back at where we are right now in 2024, talking about how this dude's the next Michael Jordan, talking about how this dude's the next face of the league, talking about this dude is the next greatest thing, without a ring to show for it, if he doesn't win one in the next 4 years. So what I'm saying is, we've seen this dance before. We set stars up to put them down. And this is where I'm going to pivot out of Jason Tatum. This is not with just Jason Tatum. I think every single star in the league has had a honeymoon period. That's the word I was looking for. Every single superstar in the league has had a honeymoon period until motherfuckers started hating on him. This is not just a Jason Tatum thing, before y'all go in the comment section. Jokic, up until last season, was getting fraud allegations because he was winning all these MVPs. He was leading everything in all these advanced stats. But where was the ring to show for it, Jokic? You're a fraud, buddy. We don't respect you until you win this ring. He won the ring. Now he's getting his respect. But even then, as soon as he went down 0-2 against Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, revised his ring. He played a play-in tournament team in, 3 out of the 4 rounds? How difficult was that ring? Did that ring really count? I'm telling y'all. Giannis. Do y'all remember the narratives around Giannis before 2021? The playoff choker conversations? The playoff underperformer conversations after what happened in 2019? After what happened specifically in 2020 against Miami? The conversations around Giannis and how he's a fraud. How, yo, this is supposed to be the MVP of the league. This is supposed to be the DPOY. There was a honeymoon period where everyone thought Giannis was great. He was charismatic. He was flashy. Didn't have a boring game. And now here we are, year 8. Giannis finally got his ring, so he does deserve respect. But still, everyone has this period of, yo, you are a rising star in the league. Yo, you're supposed to be next up. And then once you don't get those, specifically a ring, by the time you're 27, 20, I've just seen it too consistently. By the time you're 27, 28, you're gonna get cooked. Because you're supposed to be this guy that we touted you out to be, even though, you know, you told us, to be honest with you, to not compare you to this guy, which Anthony Edwards has said verbatim, do not compare me to Michael Jordan. But now we're about to cook you for things that you didn't even say. You know what I'm saying? Another example is LeBron. The chosen one. The next greatest thing. And in hindsight, the amount I hate LeBron James, because there was this one point where it really hit me, where like, bro, LeBron was not this old fuck once he went to Miami. I understand he was already in his prime going into Miami, but LeBron was 25 his first season in Miami. LeBron was 25, 26 his first season in Miami. This is not an old fuck. This is a guy entering his prime. But I remember the amount of hate he was getting after 2010. The chosen one became the frozen one. He's a fraud. He's a playoff choker. And then he had the career that he had, and now we're here, 10, 15 years later. This motherfucker is one of the greatest, arguably the GOAT now. One of the best playoff performers we've ever seen, and it is a 4-time NBA champion. You know what I'm saying? I think another one in recent... Hell, even motherfuckers that won rings. Like, Steph Curry had to prove to y'all that, he could win without KD and without injuries in the finals. Like, y'all prop these stars up to put them down. And it's honestly sad to me. And I think I'm already seeing the signs. I'm already seeing the signs of that, we're right now, with videos coming out like this, we're in the honeymoon period. Oh, another dude, Devin Booker, by the way. I remember the D-Book hype like 2-3 years ago. Now that shit is all gone. Motherfuckers don't like D-Book now. But nevertheless, right now we are in the honeymoon period when it comes to Anthony Edwards. I remember the honeymoon period when it came to Luka. I think that has died down too. There is going to be a point in time where this motherfucker's been in the league long enough to the point where, where that ring at? Those conversations are about to come up in the next 2 to 3 years, in my opinion.
They're even saying he looks like MJ, which he doesn't, but for the sake of fun, we'll let them run with that. According to Chris Broussard, who reached out to Jordan earlier this season, even Michael Jordan said he sees the similarities between himself and Anthony Edwards.
Well, I reached out to the GOAT today, Michael Jordan, and Jordan said there are similarities in their games. He agreed. So Jordan said there's similarities. There's similarities, all right?
And in many interviews over the past year, Edwards has addressed the comparison, stating, although he can't deny it and he sees the similarities, he would rather it all just stop. But when you're doing the things Ant is doing right now, how could we possibly help ourselves? Now, Edwards has only played in 18 career playoff games, not enough to crack any all-time NBA postseason leaderboards. But we can see how Ant stacks up against MJ through his first 18 playoff games, where despite Ant being historically great, Michael Jordan is still in a completely different tier of his own. He scored more, rebounded more, made more assists. Pretty much every metric outside of shooting efficiency, Mike was on another level. Michael had a far worse team to start his playoff career, which probably led to him being required to do more on the court, but there is no denying that he is still the gold standard, even from the very beginning of his career. And this is where a lot of people get caught up in this whole comparison. Ant is incredible. He's what the NBA needs right now. But Michael Jordan was pretty unanimously the best player in the NBA by his 3rd season. And by his 4th season, he had already made an all-defensive team, multiple all-NBA teams, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, and a league MVP. Anthony Edwards is great, but he is projected to make an all-NBA team for the first time this year in his 4th season in the league. How could we possibly compare a young star who is just now ascending to superstar status to the greatest player of all time? According to Basketball Reference,
for me, and this is why this is a little bit weird to me, the comparisons to MJ has always been a play style thing to me. At least so far. I think the extension, I guess, is the face of the league conversations, but I truly do think those two conversations are completely separate, though. That's my thing.
References similarity score metric. The most similar player to Michael Jordan throughout NBA history was Oscar Robertson. But this metric only considers the shape and quality of a player's career, not how they actually played or their skill set. If we refer to Crafted NBA's historical similarity app, which factors in everything a player does on the court, from their defense to their offense to their efficiency and creation and everything in between, the closest thing to Michael Jordan in year 4 was Clyde Drexler in 1988, followed by a bunch of Kobe and Dwayne Wade seasons. If we limit our list of eligible candidates down to the pace and space era or the last 10 NBA seasons, then the most similar player to MJ is actually 2015 Jimmy Butler, followed by Oladipo in 2016, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in 2020, and Bradley Beal in 2018. Anthony Edwards doesn't even crack this list until the 7th and 8th spots with his 2022 and 2023 seasons. So again, why now, and why him of all players to resurrect this next MJ tag?
Well, he also looks like him. Like, there's physical similarities. 6'6" shooting guard. We've all seen the photo of the side by side between Michael Jordan and Ant. He's American. The play style is relatively similar. I mean, the comparisons is there. The comparison is definitely there. So I see it, but it has never gone to me beyond the point of, yo, is Ant the next GOAT though? That's my thing. It's always been the way that he looks, the way that he plays.
Well, because being good and even playing a similar game is just a sliver of what makes Anthony Edwards like Mike. In terms of play style, Ant is probably closer to a young Dwayne Wade than he is to Jordan. And I think most fans are aware of this. But for a lot of fans, it's not that Anthony Edwards plays exactly like a young Michael Jordan. It's that he makes us feel the same way a young Michael Jordan made fans feel 35 years ago. He doesn't just put together crazy dunks.
Do we even know that though? Do we even know? I honestly, listen, I've heard the stories about Michael Jordan, but I was not alive when Michael Jordan was a rookie. Michael Jordan was a rookie in 1985. I don't know what Michael Jordan made motherfuckers feel when he came into the league. Jimmy, I highly doubt you're 40 years old yourself. So I don't know if Jimmy even knows what Michael Jordan made people feel. I would like to hear from people who were around then, like the feeling that Michael Jordan came into the league. Because my thing is, I mean, I guess you could make a case that the NBA is in a state of questioning about the future of the league when it comes to the face of the league conversation. But Michael Jordan came into a league that was in the middle of needing to be saved. You know what I'm saying? Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were already there to save it. But Michael Jordan was dab in the middle of that. So, I don't know.
He electrifies the crowd and gets us on our feet. The kind of moments that leave you and your buddies buzzing about long after the game is over. He doesn't just take over games. He talks trash while he's doing it. And he's got a pretty solid track record of backing it up. He's not just a part of a winning team. At just 22 years old, he is leading a winning team. He's not just really good. He's hungry and he's driven, and his larger-than-life character and skill set and flair only grow larger in the biggest moments. Even off the court, his mannerisms, mentality, and personality have Jordan written all over it. Being incredible on the court isn't the defining factor that provokes MJ comps with Edwards. In fact, even before Ant was dropping jaws on a contending team, many scouts and analysts made note of how eerily similar Edwards was to a young Jordan, dating all the way back to 2021, and long before we knew he would be this special. Saying Anthony Edwards reminds us of Jordan isn't saying we think he's gonna win 6 titles or be the greatest player of all time. It's saying that we saw Michael Jordan play, and now we're seeing Anthony Edwards play, and the similarities are just staring us in the face. Now, one thing I know for certain is that people who watched Michael Jordan play are the last people on earth to say anyone plays or resembles Jordan in any way. I mean, the guy is referred to as Black Jesus to some former players, for crying out loud. So even when former players begin to come out and rave about the similarities between him and Anthony Edwards, you can bet the comparison is as warranted as it's ever been. See, not every player that garnered a Michael Jordan comparison is similar to the next. There are players that play like Jordan, the footwork, the mid-range game, getting to the rim. There's players that act like Jordan, the psychotic competitors. There's the players that move like Jordan, the freak athletes. And then there's players who got compared to MJ for almost no other reason besides the fact that they were really good. There have been many players to fulfill 1, 2, maybe 3 of these attributes, but no one has ever quite lived up to all 4. Here's an overly complicated diagram of these proclaimed Jordan successors, which boxes they checked, and where they fell short. Players that acted like him, the freak athletes, players who were really good, and everything in between. Grant Hill, Allen Iverson, and Penny Hardaway got Jordan comparisons early on, but outside of just being really good, they didn't really have anything in common with MJ. DeRozan, Harold Miner, and Jerry Stackhouse played like Jordan, but they weren't quite the freak athlete that Jordan was. On the other end, Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins, and Ron Harper were freak athletes early in their careers, but that alone should have never been enough evidence to deem them the next Michael Jordan. But when you pair some of these attributes together, we'll start to find players who came closer to the Jordan comparison. LeBron, McGrady, Vince, Derrick Rose, and Len Bias were all freak athletes who were really good, but they didn't really play like Jordan, and they weren't psychotic with their approach on winning. Kawhi Leonard plays like Jordan, and he's really good, but he's an emotional robot with a 29-inch vert. Which leaves us with 3 players who have probably come closer to the Jordan comp than anyone else since Jordan's departure from the league.
Come on, gang.
Dwayne Wade, who had a fairly similar game to Jordan, was really good and was a freak athlete. And Kobe Bryant and Jimmy Butler, who play like Jordan, were and are really good respectively, and are both cutthroat competitors like Jordan was. But that's about as close as you're gonna get. Because Jimmy Butler isn't a freak athlete, and neither was Kobe. In fact, Kobe was often praised for making the most of his abilities, despite not being nearly the athlete Jordan was.
Yeah, he was still a great athlete, but he didn't came into the league as an athlete, if that makes sense.
Amongst all of these players and attributes, right now, Anthony Edwards is probably right about here. He acts like Jordan, he's a freak athlete, and he's really good. But he doesn't really play all that much like Michael did. There's definitely flashes of a young MJ in his game, with his ability to play above the rim, blow past defenders with a lightning quick first step.
But I guess I'm a backup Ant in this regard. I do think if Michael Jordan was when was Ant born? Hold on, let me see. Anthony Edwards' birthday. Anthony Edwards was born in 2001, right? If Michael Jordan was born in 2001 and grew up the way I grew up, seeing the things that I seen, I highly doubt Michael Jordan would be drafted without a 3-ball. That's my thing. And I think that's the biggest difference between AE and Mike is that 3-ball. Like, Michael Jordan was not shooting 7. Like, Anthony Edwards, out the gate, I think he was shooting 7 threes out the gate, y'all. 8 in the sophomore year, 7 last year, and roughly 7 this year in the playoffs. 10 his first season, his first series, 9 his second series, and now it's 7. I think that's the biggest difference. Also, I think Anthony Edwards isn't the passer that Michael Jordan was. But everything else, I think it's relatively similar, though. Maybe I'm tripping.
And of course, the mind-melting posters. But just like everyone else that came before him, there are, of course, differences that separate Anthony Edwards from a young Michael Jordan. With that being said, these few differences aren't nearly enough to beat the allegations of similarities. Some people have mentioned that they never saw MJ play live, but watching Ant might be what it must have felt like. Fans that did watch MJ play testify that it was in fact just like this. With a generation of megastars entering the last stages of their careers, fans of the NBA have been speculating who the new face of the league might be, and there's a lot of great candidates. Maybe it's Tatum or Luka. It was looking like it might be Ja Morant for a moment, but the off-court issues have stunted that option. SGA put up a Jordan-esque stat line this year, so maybe it's him. Jokic has been the best player in the league for the last few years, but I'm not sure if anyone would consider him the face of the NBA. Because being the face of the best basketball league in the world is about more than just being the best player in the league. You need charisma, marketability. You need to resonate with the masses. You need to put together big moments and absurd highlights that inspire even non-NBA fans. We want to know that you love the game just as much as we do. Commercials and endorsements, candid and endearing interviews that connect with the fans, a no-excuse workhorse mentality with a superhuman set of skills to contrast it. Kobe Bryant only won 1 MVP in his 20-year career, but he was the face of the NBA for about a decade. LeBron carried the torch for the majority of some of our lives, and despite not being the best player in the world anymore, he's still probably the face of the league. Steph was as likable and relatable and inspiring as a superstar can get. A very unexpected but revered face of the NBA for many years. Anthony Edwards looks like he might just be the next player to grab the torch and lead the league into a new era. The kid's got the whole package. His team loves him, the league loves him, the fans love him. Maybe because he ignites us, inspires us, and reminds us of why we all love the game. But maybe it's also because he reminds us of a player who did all of those things years ago.
Yeah, get a ring, buddy. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Now, I mean, like I said in my last video, I think when it comes to the face of the league conversation, if I had to choose who the next dude is, I think Vic is, until proven otherwise, that boy is set up to be him. I think the tier below Vic, Anthony Edwards, Luka, maybe Cooper Flag when he comes in. I don't know. I don't know enough to speak about Cooper Flag. I think the tier below him is the Tatum, Ja Morant, maybe Zion tier. But yeah, Anthony Edwards has a lot going for him. I think early on he's already winning. He is still only 22. He has the charisma. He has the numbers. He has the game to prove it. He's also American, which again, unfortunate as it sounds, I do think if Nikola Jokic just played differently, and if he was more relatable off the court, and he was more charismatic off the court, and he just related to the American people more, these conversations about who the face of the league would not be the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I literally told you in the last 4 years, just close your eyes, think about LeBron, who he is as a player, who he is as a person, who he is as an off-court presence, and I told you for the last 4 years, LeBron has won 3 of the last 4 MVPs. In the 1 year he didn't win MVP, he was second and arguably robbed. LeBron has won a championship in the last 4 years, a Finals MVP, and is averaging 26, 12, and 9 on 59, 36, 83 splits. We would not be questioning who the face of the league is. I'm going to keep it a stack. So, yeah, that off-court presence thing definitely is a factor to me. And let me just say this, too, because I've spent a lot of this video being speculative of the Anthony Edwards future. I am rooting for Anthony Edwards. Let me just say that right now. I am rooting for Anthony Edwards. And I do think even 4 years from now, if he doesn't win that ring, to say that he don't got a chance to be the face of the league anymore, to say that, you know what I'm saying, it's too late, he's a fraud, would be a mistake. A lot of these dudes are playing to 35, 36 now. Anthony Edwards hasn't proven so far, knock on wood, to be an injury-prone player. To call it quits on AE after 4 years would be a mistake. But all I'm saying is, I've seen this rodeo before. And all I'm saying is right now we are in the honeymoon phase, and Anthony Edwards fans, I, as an Anthony Edwards fan, am prepared, and y'all should be prepared for the backlash that is to come, because the hype is too much. I'm just keeping it a stack. The comparisons, I think they've reached unreasonable levels, in my opinion. Motherfuckers like Charles Barkley are telling y'all to cool it down. I'm telling y'all to cool it down. Anthony Edwards himself is telling y'all to cool him down. But when you got videos, again, I don't blame Jimmy for making this video, because all of his points made sense. But when you got videos like this, when you got people talking the way that they're talking about Anthony Edwards, the setup has been set up. That's all I'm saying. With that being said, though, let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Jimmy's video will be in the description. And I'm out, man. Peace.